Don't mention your pathetic job at the family dinner, Mom sneered. It's embarrassing. My brother smirked. Who wants a warehouse manager in the family? I smiled and said, you'll find out tomorrow. When the bank called about their loan application, they learned who really owned the supply chain. I straightened my simple black dress, checking my reflection in the hallway mirror of my parents' suburban home. No designer labels, no flashy jewelry, just clean, professional lines and comfortable shoes. The kind of outfit you'd expect from someone who spent their days managing warehouse logistics. Sophia, Mom's voice carried from the dining room. Everyone's waiting. Everyone met my brother Michael, the successful real estate developer, his wife Amanda with her family money and country club membership, and my parents' carefully curated collection of family friends, all gathered to celebrate Dad's retirement from his mid-level banking job. I took a deep breath, remembering why I'd agreed to come tonight. 10 years of condescension, of subtle jabs about my career choices, of being the family disappointment. It was all about to change. They just didn't know it yet. There she is, Mom said as I entered, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We were just telling the Andersons about Michael's new development project. The luxury condos? Michael lounged in his chair, Rolex catching the light. Breaking ground next month. Just need that construction loan to finalize. I nodded, taking my seat at the far end of the table, my usual spot away from the important conversations. A text buzzed on my phone. All set for tomorrow, boss. Thanks, open at 9. How's your job, Sophia? Mrs. Anderson asked, clearly struggling to remember what I did. Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. Oh, Sophia's between things right now, still figuring out her path. Actually, I started. She manages a warehouse, Michael interrupted with a smirk. Inventory and shipping, very exciting stuff. The table rippled with polite murmurs and quickly changed subjects. I sipped my water, watching Mom shoot me a warning look. Don't embarrass us, that look said. Know your place. If they only knew. 10 years ago, fresh out of college with my logistics degree, I had taken a job as an assistant manager at Global Freight Solutions. While Michael was busy partying through business school, I was learning every aspect of the supply chain industry. While he networked at cocktail parties, I built relationships with truck drivers, customs agents, and dock workers, the people who actually made global commerce possible. Did you hear? Amanda's voice cut through my thoughts. The Richardsons' daughter just made junior partner at her law firm. Wasn't she in your class, Sophia? She was, I replied calmly. Jessica's doing well. See, Mom sees the opening. It's not too late to go back to school, honey. Law school, maybe an MBA, something respectable. I set down my fork. I like my job, Mom. Sweetheart, Dad joined in, his tone patronizing. You're too smart to spend your life in a warehouse. Even that nice Martinez boy from church became a dentist. The nice Martinez boy had also asked me out last month, then ghosted me after learning what I did for a living as loss. Speaking of careers, Michael said, Amanda and I are looking at vacation homes in Aspen. Once this development deal goes through, we'll finally be able to afford. If it goes through, I murmured. The table went quiet. What's that supposed to mean? Michael demanded. I shrugged. Construction loans are tough right now. Banks are tightening requirements, especially for luxury developments. And you'd know this because Amanda's voice dripped with disdain. Just something I heard at work. Mom stood abruptly. Sophia, help me with dessert. In the kitchen, she rounded on me. What are you doing? Your brother has important people at this dinner. People who could help your career if you just what, Mom? Pretend to be something I'm not. Don't mention your pathetic job again, she hissed. It's embarrassing enough having to explain to our friends why you waste your potential in some warehouse. I thought about the documents waiting in my briefcase, about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow, about the empire I'd built while they weren't paying attention. Who wants a warehouse manager in the family? Michael called from the dining room loud enough to carry. Probably can't even afford the maintenance fees at my new development. I walked back in, calm settling over me like a shield. You're right, probably can't, but tomorrow might bring surprises. What's that supposed to mean? Mom demanded. I smiled. Just that things aren't always what they seem. They had no idea how true that was. That assistant manager position, I'd used it to learn every flaw, every inefficiency in the global supply chain. While my bosses focused on quarterly reports, I developed a revolutionary logistics software system. When they passed me over for promotion, I quit and started my own company. Atlas Logistics began in my garage apartment, just me and a laptop. But I understood something my family never had. Real power isn't in flashy developments or country club memberships. It's in controlling how things move. Every product, every material, every component has to get from point A to point B. I made that process seamless. Major manufacturers noticed. Tech companies noticed. Anyone who needed reliable, efficient shipping became my client. Atlas grew silently, deliberately, Until we controlled logistics for half the country's major retailers. I kept my old warehouse job title, working from the front lines, seeing opportunities others missed. The office politics and backstabbing that consumed my brother's world meant nothing in mine. I built something real. And tomorrow, when Michael's loan application crossed my desk, because, yes, I own the logistics company that the bank used to verify supply chain stability for construction projects, everything would change. More wine, Sophia, Amanda offered condescendingly. Drown your sorrows about that warehouse? I declined politely. Early meeting tomorrow. Oh, counting boxes. Michael laughed at his own joke. Something like that. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of subtle digs and pointed comments. Mom catch trying to set me up with successful men from church. Dad hinted at job openings at his bank. Michael bragged about his development plans. I let them talk. In my car later that night, I called my assistant. Everything ready for tomorrow? Yes, Miss Martinez. The bank's due diligence team will discover that the proposed construction site has severe supply chain vulnerabilities. Atlas Logistics report will effectively kill the loan unless they contract exclusively with us for all materials transport at premium rates. I smiled. And who owns Atlas Logistics? On paper, a dozen shell companies. In reality, you're the sole owner and CEO worth approximately $300 million as of last quarter. Tomorrow, my family would learn that their embarrassing warehouse manager controlled one of the largest logistics networks in the country. That Michael's success or failure depended entirely on my company's approval. That every snide comment, every dismissive gesture had been directed at someone who could buy and sell their whole world 10 times over. But tonight, I drove home to my modest apartment above the warehouse. Tomorrow would come soon enough. A text from Mom. Hope you'll think about what we discussed. Law school applications are still open for spring. I didn't reply. The numbers in my company's books would reply for me soon enough. The bank's conference room had the stereo-polished feel of every financial institution I had ever visited. But today, sitting quietly in the corner while Michael presented his development proposal, I savored every detail. As you can see, Michael gestured to his sleek slides. The pinnacle at Highland Park will redefine luxury living in our city. 40 stories, premium amenities, spectacular views. I watched the loan committee's faces. 5 senior bankers who'd evaluate the $50 million construction loan application. Mom and Dad sat near Michael, beaming with pride. They'd called in favors to get this meeting at the prestigious First National. Very impressive, Mr. Martinez, the committee chair said. However, we have some concerns about supply chain stability in today's market. Oh, that's all arranged? Michael waved dismissively. We've got contracts with multiple suppliers. Actually, a new voice spoke up. That's why I'm here. Everyone turned as Thomas Bradford, CEO of First National Bank, walked in. My parents' eyes widened. The CEO himself rarely attended loan committees. Tom. Dad stood, eager to leverage his old banking connection. What a pleasant surprise. Bradford nodded politely, but kept his eyes on his tablet. We've received some concerning reports about the project's logistics viability. According to Atlas Logistics, the color drained from Michael's face. Atlas was the gold standard in supply chain analysis. Their reports could make or break major projects. Atlas, he stammered. But they're just a logistics company. Surely, the bank doesn't. Atlas Logistics, Bradford continued, controls 80% of construction material transport in this region. Their analysis suggests severe supply chain vulnerabilities at the proposed site. Without their support, material costs could increase by 40%. Michael's perfect presentation was crumbling. But we can find other transport companies. In theory, yes. In practice, Atlas has exclusive contracts with most major suppliers. They've revolutionized the industry. Very impressive company. Very private. I shifted in my seat, enjoying the show. What do you suggest? Mom asked anxiously. Well, Bradford checked his notes. Atlas has indicated they might consider a premium service contract. If you're interested, their CEO is actually here today. Michael looked around frantically. Here? Where? I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple black dress. Right here. The silence was absolute. No, Michael whispered. Yes, Bradford smiled. Miss Martinez has been one of our most valuable clients for years. Atlas Logistics holds significant accounts with us. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad seemed to age 10 years in 10 seconds. Michael just stared, his expensive suit suddenly seeming like a child's costume. You, he managed finally. Your Atlas founded it 10 years ago, I said calmly while managing that embarrassing warehouse job. But you never said anything. All those times you mocked my career, dismissed my potential, treated me like the family failure. I pulled out my own tablet. Let's talk about those supply chain vulnerabilities. For the next hour, I methodically outlined every flaw in Michael's logistics plan, The impossible delivery schedules, the unrealistic cost projections, the bottlenecks he'd never considered. This is absurd. He finally exploded. You're doing this to sabotage me. No, I corrected. I'm doing my job. The same job you've ridiculed for years, Sophia. Mom tried, her voice shaking. Surely, you can help your brother. Family should. Family should support each other. I cut in. Not tear each other down. Not shame someone for their choices. Not decide someone's worth based on appearances. Bradford cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss Atlas Premium Service Option. I pulled up the contract. Triple our standard rates. Exclusive 5-year commitment. Non-negotiable. Triple. Michael choked. That would eat most of our profit margin. Welcome to the real world of logistics, brother, where actual work matters more than flashy presentations. Dad finally spoke up. All this time, while we were pushing you to change careers, I was building an empire. I finished one warehouse at a time, one contract at a time, one innovation at a time. The loan committee shifted uncomfortably. Without Atlas's support, the project was effectively dead. Michael knew it. My parents knew it. Everyone in that room knew it. The premium contract, Michael said finally, defeated. Can we see the terms? I sent the document to his tablet. As he read, his face went through a fascinating range of emotions. Shock at the costs, anger at the conditions, and finally, devastating realization at the signature block. This has to be approved by the CEO personally. That's right, I smiled. That would be me, the warehouse manager you're so ashamed of. Mom started to cry quietly. Dad stared at his hands. The loan committee tried to look anywhere but at our family drama. Mr. Bradford, I said, standing. I believe we're done here. Unless my brother would like to revise his proposal, I'll need time to recalculate, Michael mumbled. As I walked out, Bradford fell into step beside me. That was rather dramatic. Sometimes lessons need to be dramatic to stick. And the premium contract, will you actually enforce those rates? I thought about years of snide comments, of dismissive gestures, of being the family embarrassment. That depends, I said, on what I hear at the next family dinner. In the elevator, my phone buzzed with messages. Mom begging me to reconsider. Dad asking to meet Michael's wife, Amanda, suddenly very interested in getting coffee. But the message that caught my eye was from our warehouse supervisor. Loading dock needs approval on the Johnson shipment, boss. I smiled. Time to get back to my embarrassing job. The news spread through our social circle like wildfire. Sophie Martinez, the warehouse manager, was actually a business mogul. My parents' phones exploded with calls from friends suddenly eager to reconnect with their successful daughter. I ignored it all, focusing on what I'd always focused on, running my company. Miss Martinez, my assistant Sarah called through the intercom. Your mother's here. Again, it had been 2 weeks since the bank meeting. 2 weeks of avoided calls and declined invitations. But I couldn't hide forever. Send her in. Mom looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual perfectly coordinated outfit and immaculate makeup. She clutched her purse like a shield. This is where you work? She asked, looking around my office. Not the corner warehouse office she'd imagined. Instead, the entire top floor of downtown's most prestigious building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, including the empty lot where Michael's development should have been rising. This is one of my offices, I replied. I prefer being at the warehouses where the real work happens. Why didn't you tell us? The question burst out of her. All these years, we thought. You thought what you wanted to think, Mom. You saw a warehouse manager and decided that wasn't good enough. Never asked what I actually did. Never showed interest in my work. We were worried about you, living in that tiny apartment, working those long hours. That apartment is above our main distribution center. I lived there because I wanted to, not because I had to. I gestured to the city view. I could have bought this building years ago, but flash and status, that was never my goal. She sank into a chair, looking lost. Your father hasn't slept since we found out. He keeps talking about all the times he tried to get you entry-level bank jobs, thinking he was helping. And Michael? He's struggling. The development deal fell through completely. No other logistics company will touch it after Atlas declined. I pulled up my tablet, showing her Atlas's real-time operations map. Thousands of dots moving across the country. Trucks, ships, planes, all coordinated through our systems. This is what I built, Mom. While you were embarrassed by my job, I was revolutionizing how goods move around the world. While you were trying to set me up with dentists and lawyers, I was building something that actually matters. I'm so sorry, she whispered. We were so wrong. Anak interrupted us, Sarah, again. Sorry, Miss Martinez, but we have a situation at the Port of Seattle. Major weather delay affecting the tech corridor shipments. Give me a minute. I turned back to Mom. This is why I love my job. Real problems, real solutions. not just status and appearances. She watched in silence as I coordinated with our port managers. We're routing shipments through alternate channels, adjusting schedules in real time. Millions of dollars of goods, thousands of jobs, all depending on quick, smart decisions. You're amazing at this, she said finally. I always was. You just never saw it. Another knock. This time, Michael, looking uncomfortable in a cheap suit. Sophia, he stopped, saying Mom. Oh, I can come back. Stay, I said. Family meeting might as well be now. He sat heavily, avoiding my eyes. I lost everything, he admitted. The development deal, my investors, even Amanda. She left, says she didn't marry a failure. He laughed bitterly. Funny. That's how we treated you all these years. Michael, I began, but he cut me off. No, let me finish. I was so busy playing big shot developer. I never actually learned the business. Not like you did. You started from the ground up, learned every detail, built something real. Mom wiped her eyes. We were such snobs. All that time bragging about Michael's projects, and our real success story was right there, managing warehouses. My phone buzzed. Dad, requesting access from lobby security. Send him up, I told Sarah. When Dad walked in, the family circle was complete. He looked older, tired, but something else too. Proud, maybe for the first time of what I'd actually achieved. I drove by the warehouse today, he said quietly. Your warehouse. Saw the trucks lined up, everything running like clockwork. Got me thinking about all those dinners where we treated you like. He trailed off. Like an embarrassment, I finished. He nodded sadly. While you were building an empire, we were measuring success by country club memberships. I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. I pulled up another screen. The contract Michael had refused at the bank. The premium rates, I said, were never real. That was just a lesson in humility. Michael's head snapped up. What? Atlas will support your development. Standard rates. But I held up a hand as hope flooded his face. You're going to learn this business from the ground up, starting in our warehouse management training program. You mean 6 months loading trucks, learning logistics, understanding how things actually work. No shortcuts, no fancy titles, just real work. I'll do it, he said immediately. Whatever it takes. Mom leaned forward. And, thus, how do we fix what we broke? I thought about all the family dinners, all the subtle jabs, all the attempts to change me into their version of success. Come see what I actually do, I said. Not what you imagine I do. Come to the warehouses. Learn about my world. Stop being ashamed of honest work. The next month wrought changes no one could have predicted. Michael traded his Rolex for a safety vest, learning logistics from the ground up. Mom started volunteering at our workforce development program, helping employees earn their GEDs. Dad became fascinated by our technology, often spending hours understanding our systems. The family dinners changed too. Now they were at my apartment above the warehouse with conversations about real work, real challenges, real achievements. No more social climbing. No more status anxiety. One evening, as we watched trucks being loaded below, Mom asked, "Are you happy, Sophia?" Really happy. I looked at my family, finally seeing me, finally understanding what I'd built, and at the empire of motion I'd created. I always was, Mom, moving things, solving problems, building something real. That's what I love. The money, the power, that was never the point. We understand that now. Dad said, "Thanks for not giving up on us." Michael, fresh from his shift, joined us still wearing his safety vest. "Hey, sis. Remember when I used to mock your pathetic warehouse job? Hard to forget. Today, I learned how to optimize loading patterns for maximum efficiency. Actually, pretty amazing stuff." I smiled. Welcome to my world, brother, where success isn't about looking important. It's about being important, he finished, to the world, to the economy, to people who depend on us. Later that night, alone in my office, I had looked at our family photo from Dad's retirement dinner, the last picture of us before everything changed. We looked perfect on the surface, wealthy, successful, proper, and completely fake. Now we were real. Michael was discovering the satisfaction of actual achievement. Mom was learning the value of meaningful work. Dad was seeing success through new eyes. And me, I was exactly who I'd always been. The warehouse manager who built an empire. The logistics expert who kept the world moving. The daughter who finally taught her family what success really means. My phone buzzed. A problem at the Chicago hub needed attention. I smiled, ready to tackle another real challenge in my embarrassing job. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving people wrong. It's about showing them a better way to be right.